So Nuzlockes are the most common type of Pokemon playthrough that you'll see on YouTube, other than blind ones. Why is this? Well, it's because pretty much every Pokemon game is super easy. Some are easier than others, some are harder than others, but, you know, overall, they're all pretty easy, because they're made for kids and made for them to be able to complete and actually finish. Although as a kid I only actually managed to beat Leaf Green one time, and that's it. Although I pretty much just played Leaf Green, Emerald and Platinum anyway. But eventually I played through all the games and it wasn't that hard to enjoy them because it was my first time through and got to see all the new Pokemon. Even got to enjoy the story, I guess, even though I didn't enjoy most of the stories. The thing that makes Pokemon so good though is its replayability, obviously. You can go through the game all these different times with all these different types of teams, but there are a few things holding you back for obvious reasons. The evolution levels, the what Pokemon in the game, where they are. But you know, you can solve that with stuff like randomizers and ROM hacks and stuff like that. But the problem with the game being so easy is that it's just super boring to play through the game, no matter what the team is, because sometimes you can just solo with one Pokemon, right? So there needs to be some additional rules to add on to that, and obviously the Nuzlocke is that when a Pokemon dies, it's gone. And you can only catch the first Pokemon in each route, and if you miss it, it's gone. Two pretty simple and easily understandable rules that you can get used to pretty quickly. But if you've played a few Nuzlockes, you'll probably notice some things about the way difficulty works in stuff like this. And by stuff like this, I mean RPGs like Pokemon. The obvious one being that it's hardest generally at the beginning, although that applies to a lot of games, so that's pretty fine, right? It can just be slightly more annoying to be prepared or to restart because it's an RPG and you have to grind, level up and all that. But that's the problem overall. Pokemon games rely so much on grinding, especially around the Victory Road area where I have lost or almost lost several times, which partially is because I'm lazy, but also obviously it's not fun to grind. So the farther you get in the game, obviously the higher the stakes are. So if you don't want to lose and have wasted all your time, then just grind, right? Well no, you can't just grind, because then you're just going to overgrind and then just beat everything easily. So you got to measure it, usually with boss level caps that you self-impose. And that's fine for most games, but Pokemon, and especially randomized Pokemon, which you're going to want to play if you want any difficulty generally, not with ROM hacks, but in general play, then there's going to be a whole lot of randomness involved. And sometimes you will just lose Pokemon or just lose the lock for things that weren't your fault. Or even if it was your fault, it's stuff that you couldn't have seen coming. And the randomness, it's part of the fun. It's part of the challenge. It's part of you go into something you don't know what to expect. But also, it's a problem. You can team build, you can work around crits, you can do all that stuff, be well prepared, buy enough items, and manage your money, but sometimes you'll just lose. Or you'll lose because you didn't grind out one extra level, or just something that had to do with speed that you didn't memorize. But it is a challenge that a lot of people enjoy. Because a lot of people enjoy challenges that go beyond that, with no items and set mode. And I've tried Pokemon Emerald with, the base game with set mode and no items, and it's pretty tough. That's mostly because I refuse to choose anything other than Torchic, because I love Torchic, but it's pretty much useless in Hoenn, so that's great. But when I want to play Pokemon, I want to play Pokemon, and I want to play a relatively challenging, something I don't have to think too hard about, something I can just play and enjoy and not think about too much. And unfortunately Pokemon isn't that. And this is obviously with Nuzlocke, otherwise it'd just be absolutely brainless. But with Nuzlocke, you don't have to think about it too much. It's pretty relaxing to play. But a base Nuzlocke is still way too easy. It's just way too easy to get the ball rolling, get a good team, and then you just steamroll until you get until you happen to run across something that makes you lose them on, or till you get to the end game where you needed to grind 5 levels at Victory Road and you didn't, so you lost them on, and then it just kind of snowballed. into like a blackout, or until you only have like 2 mons left and you're just like, oh, I'll just grind up these 2 mons and overlevel them and just win the game. I've already sunk so much time to this, I don't want to sit here and grind out a whole new team. But most of the time, most of the reason that I make mistakes is because I get complacent and I'm just like, well, this is boring because I'm just beating everything super easily. And it's only when I lose them on, when things start getting tough. It doesn't get tough because the game's hard or because even the randomization and the RNG fucks me over. It's just a pain to have to grind something up. When you start adding restrictions and mons die more easily, then you just get more of these annoying moments where you have to grind everything up. And that's just the worst part about it. The worst part about it should be that Pokemon's gone and it's going to be harder for me to win battles. But instead, it's the annoyance. I just wish there was a better way to involve stakes in your challenge runs somehow. Or if the AI and the decisions or their teams were just like more balanced and just, not some stupid like ROM hack only move that they made that's just absolute nonsense. I mean, something like actually fair. And it'll never be totally fair with the RNG factor involved, but I can accept that. The thing that I just can't stand is just a difficulty curve just being all wonky all the time. You start the game, it's pretty hard, maybe you'll have 1 or 2 deaths, 1 or 2 resets, but at that point you can grind up pretty easily. And then you get towards the end of the game, and everything's been easy, everything's been fine, suddenly you lose half your team, and then you have to like grind up half your team again, and all the levels just take longer, and it's just like, it just takes hours, and it's like, what was the point of this? Like, I just sat through this entire playthrough, just charged through like almost all of the game, just to fall at the last hurdle, and it doesn't feel like it's my fault. It doesn't feel like it's something I did wrong. It just feels like the game arbitrarily wanted me to grind 10 levels at this one point, and I didn't do that, so it just fucks me over. Obviously this is most egregious on like Gen 2, where you have to fight Red and he's like 30 levels above the last person you fought, and it's like, why would you ever Nuzlocke this game? Why would you ever Nuzlocke Gen 2 anyway? Because it's garbage. It's just the levels are just completely off, even in the remakes. But like, you get to the end of the game and they just want you to grind like 20, 30 levels. What's the point of Nuzlocking that? That's the entire problem with these Nuzlocke challenges overall, and it's just turned up to 11 here, where it's just super easy the entire game, and right at the end the level curve just jumps and then it just fucks you over right on the final stretch of the game, and then you have to restart from the beginning if you want to try it again. And obviously not grinding is kind of my fault. Like, if I really wanted to win, I could have sat there for a few hours and grinded the levels out, but that shouldn't be a way a game has to be played. Pokemon is extremely complex, and the base games just don't make use of that, so you have to add all these arbitrary restrictions on top of that, but then when you do, it just doesn't really actually work. Most of it is just artificial difficulty. That's just what a challenge run is, and the fact that you have to do that to even really care about all the systems that the game employs with the types and the IVs and the EVs and all that, it's just kind of frustrating to me. It's not like I hate playing through Pokemon. I mean, I play it more than a lot of other games, but it's just a shame that the only way that the systems are going to be used to their full effect is generally through ROM hacks. And I hate ROM hacks. I hate their terrible stories. I hate their like making Luxray like electric and dark. Like, what are you doing? I hate all these like new moves they put in. At the end of the day, I just want the regular games to be better. Like, it could be better. You don't have to make it that easy. And even if you did, you could just add an extra challenge mode like you did for the Gen 5 games. Why don't you do that? Why aren't the actual game developers of Pokemon making the best Pokemon content out there? Why is it all self-imposed and ROM hacks and all this nonsense and randomizers? Why aren't the people making the games the best that they could be? If they did, we could have a game with like an appropriate level curve that's difficult and something you want to retry and redo. Why isn't there a built-in randomizer? How could they not do that? There's just so much that they could be doing that they're not. And don't get me wrong, Sword and Shield are like the games I've enjoyed the most since Platinum probably. Maybe even Emerald. Maybe I'm just biased because I'm British, but this video isn't about comparing games anyway. It's just about the difficulty and the crippling lack of it. in the games, and the challenge of increasing the difficulty or giving it an appropriate curve through other means. But I somehow doubt that any of that will change anytime soon.